part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane,
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Test your mic. Test your mic. Mortal Bryan! Ah, that's right. Bryan Peters! Welcome to the Krypton Report. I am Tyler, your host, the Superman of Blue, and with me today is my own Green Lantern himself, Bryan Peters. And he got a new mic, and we're testing it out for this podcast today. What's up, Bryan? Bryan?
I'm doing great. My wife got me a Yeti speaker. Yeti Blue or Blue Yeti. Yeti Blue Daddy?
Yeah, I think it's a Blue Yeti.
Blue Yeti. There we go, speaker. So that you guys can hear me a little bit better. And
it's great. Coming in loud and clear and clean.
Sweet. It's better than have a mic right up against my mouth, headset on, all that stuff. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited for how it sounds. Hopefully, they can hear my voice over James.
Yeah, true. So this conversation today is part of our discussion on the first Kirk Allen serial, just entitled simply Superman. And Bryan started watching these, and I was like, all right, man, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait to talk with you. Just because, as a lot of people have heard, and we've referenced how Bryan has been reading DC Comics chronologically, and he's been going through history. He's kind of taking a moment to read, to do DC Comics viewing chronologically. And he started with the serial. And at first, his messages were very positive, and then they started to change a little. So we're just here to talk about it. So, Bryan, I'll let you go ahead and open up the discussion.
I don't know if I kind of regret kind of not reading Golden Age Superman and then watching this and then kind of going that way, like watching as I read. I probably should have went that route, but when I started the journey of reading DC Comics chronologically, I was more focused on, can I find everything? Is everything on DC Universe? What is not on DC Universe? What will I be able to find? What won't I be able to find? So my focus was kind of more on that because I started this journey when DC Universe launched. And everything was on DC Universe, the serials and Superboy, and they had encyclopedias for characters, and they had the Superman serials on there too, plus your Golden Age stuff. So I guess I took advantage of that and how everything was there, and didn't know it was going to go away. So I kind of got spoiled, unfortunately.
Yeah, we did. I miss DC Universe.
Rest in peace, DC Universe.
I'll tell you, I feel like I don't watch as much DC stuff as I did before, even though a lot of it is on HBO Max.
Yeah.
I just would automatically hit that DC and go, man.
It's just, I mean, you go on HBO Max and you see the new stuff that's there, and there's the DC hub, but so much of it is all like, okay, this is the highest rated stuff. This is the stuff that we know people are going to get mad if we get rid of. So we obviously can't get rid of The Dark Knight or Christopher Reeve's Superman. But of course, we can just drop the cereals, no problem. We can drop Superboy.
Mm-hmm.
I would think in my head, let's keep the stuff that people may have not have seen, and then let's cycle the stuff that they, of course, just about everybody's seen. That I don't know. That would make sense to me. But
That was part of the joy was I can go back and watch all the serials, all the George Reeves show,
yep.
all the old Wonder Woman stuff that I had seen bits and pieces of that I hadn't. And it's upsetting that happened. So how are you watching the serials right now?
So I purchased them on iTunes because I live in a small place, so I'm mostly a digital content person. No matter how much people give me crap about it, sometimes
I just joke with you. I love you. I just mess with you.
But it saves a lot of room. So I mean, if you guys could have seen my DVD Blu-ray collection when I got married, it was something absolutely gorgeous.
It was gorgeous. But, I bet. I feel it in my soul. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful, and now it's like 600 something movies digitally. But I digress. Moving on. So I purchased it, and it gives me the 1948 Spider Lady, as I call it, cereal, and it gives me the Atom Man.
So you did get both of them. That's awesome.
Both of them. But most importantly, one of the main things that really sucks for a deaf person is that sometimes you get this stuff on DVD and because it's older, it does not have captions. And as a deaf man, I rely on that stuff. So, for example, I purchased Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on DVD and this extremely discounted box set for $25 off Amazon.
It was awesome. It was beautiful.
It was gorgeous. It was almost as beautiful as my wife, if not more beautiful. But she almost this podcast, so it don't matter. But no captions, no nothing. So what is a deaf man to do? So he has to purchase digitally. So all you people that get on me about not having physical media, it is because of subtitles and room.
And what's crazy is I was like buying, media to make sure that it had subtitles, but so you purchased them on iTunes or Amazon, you said?
On iTunes.
And it has subtitles?
It has subtitles. It gives me the 1948 Spider Lady. It gives me Atom Man. It's all together. It breaks them up by episode, and even says coming to theaters in a few weeks, episode 14 of Superman.
That's always my favorite. Come again next week in this theater.
It makes me wonder. Like, I wonder what movies they were attached to.
Well, I mean, you got to think you probably going to the movies was a whole day kind of thing. You got your cartoons, your newsreel, your serials, and then your feature. I mean, that sounds like a good day, good afternoon, just chilling in the theater,
Sign me up.
Yeah, sign me up.
Used to that time travel. But
yes, I wonder the same thing.
But when you look on iTunes, the original Batman serial from 1941 is not on there.
Really?
So
okay. So what
it has the Batman and Robin, like the later one, but it doesn't have the original one with the Japanese World Order and such.
is that okay? I always get them mixed up. It's which one has Lewis Wilson is which one? I always forget which. And I always forget the second guy's name.
I'm looking up here for ourselves and our listeners what came in order here. So I didn't have it saved on my phone, but so apologize. All right, DC Films chronological. Where is it? Come on, chronological order. Okay. List of films based on DC Comics publications. All right, so we had what was ironic to me is I thought Superman was first because he came out a little bit first, but no, Batman was first. So, the first DC Comics wise, even though they weren't owned by them at the time, was actually the Adventures of Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
but they were still owned by Fawcett, and that was in 1941. And then you got Batman in 1943, and he was played by Lewis Wilson. And then Douglas Croft was Robin, and he was 16 at the time. He's still the youngest person to play Robin. Yes. What else? Yeah. And then after that, we have Batman and Robin was actually 6 years later, 1949, and Croft did return as... Oh, no, he didn't return. He did not return as Robin. Whole new cast. So Robert Lowry was Batman.
That was the one. I don't know why I always forget him.
I don't know. I had the original 1943 Batman serial on VHS as a kid, but I never finished it all.
That's hardcore.
So it's like, where's the Joker? Where's the Riddler? Who is that dude?
Yeah, because they don't fight an actual villain, much like Superman doesn't fight an actual villain in his first serial.
Right. You're right. Does Batman even face somebody in the serial? No. No. But it does have Commissioner Gordon. But we're not talking about Batman today. We're talking about Superman. My apologies.
Even though Batman's better. Bryan, we lost you. What? Shh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think my mic picked me up there. I said Batman is better than Superman. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Bryan got lost in... What's that? Oh, that's the truck pulling up of I Don't Care.
Well, anywho. Okay, so in 1948, we got the first Superman serial. It was 15 parts.
Which is way too long.
Way too long. Oh my gosh. So long. I think what makes it so exhausting, like when it first started, I was like, okay, all right, we're getting somewhere. But then I think when I got about around the halfway mark, like episode 7, I realized how much it repeated things.
Yep.
and it just got really exhausting. Now Superman is played by Kirk Allen, and what do we know about Kirk Allen? Tyler, you're the Superman historian. What do you know about Kirk Allen?
Kirk Allen was a professional dancer. He already had contracts with Columbia and appeared in other of their serials. So he was naturally just brought in to play Superman. This is the first live-action on-film Superman, second person to don a Superman costume, as we had... Oh my gosh, his name just escaped me. Who was in the World's Fair?
Yeah, I didn't even know about that until you showed me that video the other day. The guy.
I know this, and like if I hadn't been sitting here talking, I would have remembered it. But
well, sorry.
Now I just blanked. Dang it! Long days of work and children.
What the heck was his name? The dude in the float.
But yeah,
the guy.
That was technically the first physical embodiment of Superman.
And in that clip you showed me, you only see his back. Like you don't even know.
There's like little bits of footage that's very hard to find, very hard to see. Because I mean, it was 1939 World's Fair. Like, you can just pull out your cell phone and record.
That's funny.
Ray Middleton, that's what it was.
Milton. Okay. All right. Did you know that Kirk Allen? Okay. The first. I'm going to count Kirk Allen as the first live action Superman.
Oh, he totally is.
Is that fair? Psh. I mean, that's anybody. That's like James, dressing up at some Comic-Con. That's what that's the equivalent of. It doesn't really count, but it's a magnificent sight to see it.
It is.
So Kirk Allen was actually born John Fego Jr. John Fego Jr. was his real name. He's known mostly for the Superman serials. He played Superman once again in Adam Man vs. Superman, which we'll talk about once I finish it.
Yep.
He also played a DC Comics character. He played another DC Comics character. Can you name it?
I can.
You cannot?
Yes, that is true. Unless you're counting Clark Kent, and that's cheating.
No, no, I wouldn't go that route. He actually played a Blackhawk.
Oh, I remember that now that you say that.
Which was first published by Quality Comics. It later would be published by DC Comics, and it was a Blackhawk serial by Will Eisner. So I did not know that. And he also played Sam Lane in Superman the movie.
Yeah, I did know that. And I was pretty sure that wasn't the one you were talking about, so I was trying to dig deeper to think if I had missed something.
I did not know that.
And it was Dr. Sam Lane that he played, because he had not yet become General Sam Lane yet.
I did not know that. Kirk did... Kirk, he said he was a dancer. He was a chorus boy for Broadway plays. And what else? Okay. Alan, in an interview with Alan, talking with the producer, he said, when they asked him to play Superman, he said, "I thought it was a publicity stunt. I didn't think you could ever put Superman on film. They brought the people from DC Comics over and they said, 'Hey, he looks just like Clark Kent.' They said, 'Take your shirt off.' Ooh. So I did. I flexed my muscles. Then the guy said, 'Take off your pants.' I said, 'Wait a minute.' I was 37 when I played Superman. I picked up that girl and ran up that flight of stairs like it was nothing." Huh. That's cool.
I think he was the oldest actor to ever play Superman.
Yeah. Very, very interesting.
He's 37 playing Superman.
37 plays.
And now we have 25? Wasn't how old Brandon Routh was when he played Superman?
Well, didn't we I think you and I, we looked over it and it was the sweet spot was kind of 27.
Yeah, it eventually gets to be there. I mean, in modern day, that makes sense because you want the actor to have the longest run possible of being able to play a character.
Right. How old was George when he started?
Man, I knew that.
Let me look this up here. Sorry, listeners. We're researching a little bit as we're going. We apologize. Interesting.
He was 45 when he died.
Yeah, 45 when he died. Children's short film, children's films. Okay, hold on. Well, Superman and the Mole Man would be considered a short film, I assume.
It's considered a feature film, even though it's short, because it was released in theaters. It's technically the first Superman movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's weird because it exists as this weird nexus of, because it's the first time they tried to do a movie, because Adam Man and Superman's the last, it is one of the last serials, because then they were just going to do features. Because TV was coming up.
So here, Superman and the Mole Man, 1951. George Reeves, he was 45 when he passed away. He was born January 1914. He was born George Kiefer Brewer. And When did he? Okay, in 1951, he was offered the role of Superman, and so if it was 51, he was born in 14, so he would have been 30.
He died in 59.
Right?
He died in 59. So 45 minus 8. God, we suck at math.
51 minus 14.
Yeah, it's 37.
37, yeah, like you said. Yeah.
So he's the same age as Kirk?
So, yeah, he was the same age as Kirk. You know, I think in the Golden Age, in the Golden Age, they were more focused on Superman kind of being this, like, tough guy. You know, this kind of older gentleman, kind of could be your dad, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel with George, and I'll get to Adventures of Superman soon, but I feel with George just has this presence, or this gravitas, that when he enters the room as Superman, you feel like you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like he is the dad that you wish you had.
And, nothing against Kirk Allen.
Oh.
I mean, he's the first. He paved the way. But he just felt like a dude playing Superman dress up.
Yes. And in the 1940s for serials, like, they kind of just run into each other, and then the action scenes a lot. They just run into each other. They throw, like, ridiculous punches. Perry White even gets in a fight.
Perry White never leaves his office except for that one scene where he pushes the guy. For the rest of the time, he is in his office in that chair.
and then the guy punches him, like, or gets him out the window, and he's hanging on the ledge, and Clark saves him from the ledge and pulls him up, and like, that should be it. Like, you have a job forever. I'm never going to yell at you. You saved my life. But this is Harry. So let's talk about interesting differences in the mythos here. So let's go to the beginning here.
Okay.
So
probably the coolest, best Jor-El ever, I think, maybe.
You think that's the best Jor-El ever?
No, wait, I'm wrong. Never mind. I'm getting them mixed up.
I think you mean Marlon Brando?
No, he's not a great Jor-El at all.
Shut up. He's the greatest Jor-El ever.
No, he's not.
Okay, why is he not the best Jor-El?
First of all, he can't pronounce Krypton correctly. Second of all...
It's Krypton, thank you very much.
Second of all, Jor-El's supposed to look like a young Kal-El. He does not. Marlon Brando's not like he's Christopher Reeves. I've never liked the white hair on Jor-El. So, he's not the worst, but he's not my favorite.
I'm trying to see who played Jor-El. Trying to look it up here. Okay, all cast and crew. Kirk Allen, Conrad, Elise Morgan, Martha. Okay. See, I thought that it was Sarah and Eben Kent.
Yes, it is.
I thought it was Sarah, but here it's saying Martha and Eben.
Nope, it's Sarah and Eben.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And it's Sarah and Eben in this, and in the Adventures of Superman. Okay. And my favorite Jor-El is the Adventures of Superman Jor-El.
That's your favorite Jor-El.
Yep, just wait. You'll read it. You'll see it, and you'll be like, "Yep, Tyler was right."
I have watched the first episode of Adventures of Superman, so I have. But because the start of Adventures of Superman is very close to the start of this.
Yes, it is.
This serial. Nelson Lay was the first ever actor to play Jor-El. And he was born in 1905. He died in 1985. And he is your guy that played Jor-El in the Superman serials. Now, when this starts, it has... So Krypton's kind of like Krypton's not an ice planet. It's a planet that looks a bit like our own.
You mean like they just pointed the camera outside because they were filming in California and they just used the countryside?
Yes. Because all they show you is a mountain, and I loved the effect of the spaceship. Like the spaceship was basically, it looked like it was just this piece of like metal that was connected to the camera, and as they aimed it at the mountain or the volcano,
Probably was.
if you will. Oh man, it was so funny. The outfits look silly. They look like just quilted blankets just on top of them.
Very kind of almost Flash Gordon-y, but yet not.
Yeah,
it's kind of like who came first.
Yeah, they did have a Flash. Yeah, they had a Flash Gordon vibe to them. Absolutely. What did you think of those outfits and that, like the Kryptonian Council?
I mean, one thing is I always am going to give it, the past that this is so early. This is like 10 years into the Superman mythos. But then you go back and read the comics, and there wasn't a whole lot. We had the comics, and then we had the dailies as well. But there wasn't a whole lot ever devoted to Krypton yet. So it's okay. It's passable, for what they were trying to sell. But it doesn't, because nobody's went back, looked at these, and be like, I'm going to inspire me to do my modern take on whatever. So it's not really held up,
We discussed many months ago, and I'm still trying to put it all together. The history of Krypton,
yeah,
and how it's looked and how it's changed, and I've been meaning to ask you, and maybe we'll definitely talk more about it when we get to that Krypton episode. Do you like Krypton being more Earth-like, being more kind of futuristic, a la Man of Steel? Do you like it being an ice planet with some futuristic capabilities? Like, I haven't watched all of the Krypton show. I know because I suck.
It's okay. We still love you.
What's that?
I said, that's okay. We still love you.
No, you don't. But how do you like your Krypton to be?
I honestly, I like the icy kind of crystal is a visual, like great visual reference tool. Mm-hmm. So I really like the way they found a nice balance in the Krypton TV series. They found a way to kind of blend what had been done in the Donner films as well as in Man of Steel. I like that. I don't like it to look too much like Earth. It's supposed to be alien. Yep. So I like it being a little bit different.
Yep. See, I guess I like Silver Age. I like it being an ice planet. I like what Donner did. I like it being an ice planet, and the reason being is because for the majority of the time, the Fortress of Solitude is an ice palace. It's made in the Arctic. It's made out of all ice and crystal and has all this base and stuff. So I guess my rationale in my brain is, well, why did he go to the Arctic? Because the Arctic is the closest thing to Krypton he's going to get on Earth.
Exactly.
So that made sense for me. Now I know especially around Infinite Crisis time, which is where I'm at right now in my chronological reading, the Fortress of Solitude gets destroyed, and he makes one in the Amazon. I just kind of I like it in the Arctic. I like it. Not only is it just so iconic, and it's kind of cool and ridiculous with him having this giant key that he flies in there. Like I don't know. I just think that's so cool. But I think that wherever he has his Fortress of Solitude, whatever the climate is, that has to be closest to what Krypton is. So if his Fortress of Solitude is in Amazon, then Krypton has to be more jungle-like. Like whatever he chooses in the comics has to be what Krypton was. That's what I'm getting at, I guess. And I kind of liked it being ice because for as long as until 2000s, early 2000s, it was always ice. So that's just my rationale.
And just like I always liked the fact that Krypton wasn't destroyed by a person or a thing, I like the idea that the Kryptonians kind of did it to themselves.
See, I like that too. I don't mind, and I think it was introduced in Batman animated series about Brainiac being a part of it. I think that's where it was first introduced. I could be wrong.
I think you're right.
As I'm trying to remember. But, and I thought that was an interesting twist. I thought that led a really good story for Brainiac and why Brainiac is, like, tied to the Superman mythos and stuff. Like, I don't mind that. But the reason for Krypton being destroyed, in my mind, I'm with you. It has to be their undoing. It has to be their own undoing. Like however you want to spin it, it's not. I don't like it necessarily being the sun. But I mean, the sun kind of makes sense because he gets his powers from the sun. So a sun destroying his planet, the red sun destroying his planet, and the yellow sun giving him his power. Like I do kind of like that parallel. But I really like that they just didn't listen to Jor-El. They didn't listen to reason. They didn't listen to science. They just thought he was just batshit crazy. I like that. I do like that they went out into space and they kind of looked at different worlds and seeing kind of like where they could have went. Yeah. But in this serial, we also get he was building a prototype. No one was listening to Jor-El. He puts Kal-El in, and they blast off. This volcano erupts. Krypton gets destroyed. And then this Eben and Sarah Kent, which we will say that's the Earth 2 that's Earth 2 parents. That's how I like to put it. I mean, as I've read Infinite Crisis recently, how the rationale in my head, and they kind of get into it in Infinite Crisis, where they bring in Earth 2 Superman and and Superboy and Lois and stuff. I like to think that everything prior to Crisis on Infinite Earths and creating that new, Earth, everything that you saw before that was all Earth 2.
Okay.
And I think that's the way it is actually. Because right now I'm reading the 52 series that takes place after Infinite Crisis. So at the end of Infinite Crisis, Superman, like our Superman, loses his powers because he takes Superboy Prime with Superman of Earth 2 to the place where Krypton exploded. And the kryptonite, and he flies him through the red sun, and it destroys his armor. And our Superman's like kryptonite poison to the max, and Earth 2 Superman dies in the process, and Superboy Prime gets trapped in Oa in the power battery, and Superman loses his powers. And then Batman decides to go back and train with Dick and Tim, and Wonder Woman decides to take a break too. So in this year in 52, I guess I kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm so sorry. But you find out that with Superman Earth 2, that the reason that Superboy Prime was coming in Infinite Crisis and Alexander Luthor is because everything before Crisis on Infinite Earths in their Earth 2 version was homely. It was nice. It wasn't as dark. It wasn't as destructive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what persuaded me to kind of go back and watch these serials now. Because it makes you, like, as a comic reader, like, do you feel, Tyler, that things are just way too dark? That we kind of need more of the golden age and silver age where things were lighter and not so dark? There's like,
That's okay. I'm with you. So I'm gonna stop right there.
A lot here, so you gotta
No, you're fine. I'm gonna say this. That's why I appreciate when they do these runs, like the recent Batman Superman run, where they were together and they were fighting Arturo, and it actually calls back these serials. Was a fun, lighter run and very much an Elseworlds story. So I appreciate those. The modern continuity, I think, goes back and forth. But I think in a lot of ways, with comics, is Batman's gotten too dark.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Batman books have gone way too dark.
Way too dark.
For the regular book, with the way some of the villains are just really disturbing psychopathic serial killers. We have these Black Label books and stuff. That's fine. But I feel like a lot of just the regular run titles have gone dark. And I think some of the characters, it always depends on your creative team. I think Flash has done a good job of not being dark.
Well,
but I haven't read Flash since Summer Rebirth. So, it's just, it goes in cycles, but it is fun just to read an uplifting book sometimes. And because the characters need to be aspirational, and not like Batman's not aspirational. He's brooding and angry.
But he can be hopeful. And
it's kind of like similar how I feel about the movie The Batman. Like, I enjoyed it, I liked it, but it is dark, and
it literally is dark. It is one of the darkest movies I've ever seen. I seriously needed a flashlight to watch it.
And I'm like, we need something that I hate saying kids because I don't want it to be kiddie, but we need entry points for these characters for our younger people.
Well,
and there's nothing more exciting than seeing your heroes live action.
Mm-hmm. That's why for me, Infinite Crisis was so good because, so just to recap, because I know I'm rambling, I'm trying not to ramble here. So, I know the point I was trying to make with 52. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, everybody. So in 52. In that year after Infinite Crisis, Dan Jurgens, who is, in my opinion, one of the greatest comic writers of our time, Dan Jurgens does a history of the DC universe. So as this year is going away, Donna Troy is up in space. Donna Troy has just been reincarnated again as this moon goddess thing. Called Troya, and she now has Harbinger's orb.
Mm-hmm.
And Harbinger was the Monitor's kind of like assistant in the original Crisis. And this orb contains all history of DC. It retains all the history, all the changes, everything that's really happened. And this orb is kind of telling her basically everything that's happened in the way. And it goes and says how heroes started to not trust each other because of identity crisis, how Batman got more paranoid, how all this happened because in Crisis on Infinite Earths, Earth 2 Superman and Lois and Superboy Prime and Alexander Luthor from Earth 3, they are kind of put themselves in the paradise area to kind of live between the universes, and they have observed everything that's happened from Crisis on Infinite Earths all the way to Infinite Crisis. And all that's happened in there is how Jordan goes psycho. He kills all the people, all the lanterns. We see Superman die. We see Batman's back break. We see Batman get super, super, super paranoid. We see Wonder Woman kill people. And the whole point of them coming back and Infinite Crisis is that they're going to wipe out this Earth that they've created and bring back Earth 2 because it was a little bit more hopeful and not as dark and horrible as the Earth that they have left come. So this was pretty intriguing to me because I look at our world today, Tyler, and I'm just like, where is the hope?
Yeah.
Like, is our world too dark? And I'm sitting with my wife today, and she said something like so profound, and I think she's probably going to try to write a novel about it because it was such a interesting concept. She's basically said to me that what if there was a story, or what if in real life, that the government and the world was putting out so many violent things and over-sexualized things and dark things and depressing things so that you would actually be so desensitized to violence and all these horrible things that they were actually doing this so that you, as an individual, would lose hope. Yes, my wife is that smart. Like, so just think about this. So, we see child shootings all the time, school shootings. We have such TV shows, HBO, whatever. The most popular shows that they're out there are usually full of violence. Things such as sex, which should kind of probably be seen as like private time between two individuals. We're kind of desensitized to it, where it's not that big of a deal. Dirty humor is kind of like been a norm. We're all desensitized to it. I'm not judging anybody here. I need you. That needs to be important because I laugh at all that crap too. but like, the world is trying to take away your hope. So watching old school Superman and seeing how the world was simpler back then, where I kind of got on you before and I asked, do you like Superman fighting gangsters?
Yes.
Or do you like him fighting Parasite and Metallo and...
Well, see, I wouldn't even take them.
What's that?
See, I would even put them, like, I personally don't like Superman when it gets to the point where he's off planet and out in space. I like the idea of always keeping that level of him being an outsider and him being on Earth, and the idea that this alien outsider is doing normal, regular things. Like, I love him fighting gangsters. I love him taking on criminals like that. I love, and then you have the supervillain that steps up like Metallo and Parasite. I love all that. I'm not a huge fan of when it's like he's off on this planet doing this, because then to me, like him out flying in space, I'm like, you're farther from the yellow sun. You're now extremely vulnerable. Because how do you recharge if you're a solar battery?
Thank you.
So I'm not a fan of when he leaves Earth because if he goes back to Krypton, he's if like when he goes into Kandor or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I have a love-hate relationship with Kandor. Like I think it's cool to me, Kandor works great as like an Elseworld tale almost.
Okay. That's fair.
And not as like a continuity. But it is what it is.
See, I don't like Kandor either. I don't like Kandor. I don't like.
We've had the conversation, and I don't know if you and I have ever had it on air.
Yeah.
About I like Superman being the last son of Krypton.
Absolutely.
But I put a comma. I like Supergirl because I like the idea of the story of the brothers that had their children and they inspired each other, which has never really been told well. So I like the idea that Supergirl survives because of her father being Jor-El's brother and the story of the brothers El. And then I like the idea of Zod. And
you gotta have Zod.
Because I like the idea of the Phantom Zone criminal. Yeah. So the idea that the only other person that Cal has from his homeworld is a criminal who exists because they were spared by being put in the Phantom Zone. So I like that. Any more than that, I feel like it just gets to be too much.
Well, okay. Do you feel that? I mean, I haven't got to there yet in my reading, but do you feel that Jor-El should have ever came back in any way?
Once again, it's in comics, and comics get rewritten all the time. You know what I'm saying? So the idea of it once again it would have been a great Elseworld story because then you can just keep it in its own little pocket.
Yeah.
But being the main continuity, it was cool. It was a cool story that could have been better. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I wouldn't want Jor-El to stay and be there forever. There's certain things that have to be in place to make it work. And Jor-El, that was one of my biggest downfalls of the recent Superman 78 comic, and I'll leave it at that. But that's why I'm really enjoying going back and watching the Adventures of Superman.
Yeah.
Of watching Superman, who's a little depowered compared to what we're used to, taking on gangsters and criminals and average thugs.
Yeah. I have been thoroughly enjoying. I have enjoyed all of it with the serials, but I like this going back to a simpler time. Like when I was a kid, and we talked about this today, you and I, about the gaps in between when we got new Superman actors.
Yes.
We got new Batman actors.
Well, new projects where gaps of time, because as we looked at some of them, if we were just keeping it in live action and not always, like with Superman, for example, if you look at the Christopher Reeve, we have Superman basically from 78 to 97. Not something every year, but you have Superman, then Superman 2, and that's still going, so you don't count the time between films,
No, you can't.
It's the same person, it's the sequels, but you look at the year was set 87 when Superman 4 came out.
Yep.
88 starts Superboy. Superboy ends in 91, right? And
yeah,
or 92. And then the next
Superboy end
in 92
when Lois and Clark started.
Yeah, Superboy ended in 92. Lois and Clark started in 93. Okay. Superboy was canceled because they wanted to make Lois and Clark.
Yeah.
And then Lois and Clark went to 97. So technically you had this continual thing. But as you pointed out, was from when George Reeves passed to Christopher Reeve, there's 20-year gap.
And I brought it up to you, was there a 20-year gap because of the death of George Reeves? And they didn't want, and they were worried about that image, or they were worried about, why was there such a gap? Is it comics code? because Comics Code was just starting there. That late 50s, early 60s stuff around there. It was just starting to take shape. So, was it kind of that? Do you think?
I would say part of it is one, just the you know, I mean, they tried to make the Superboy TV series.
Okay.
They filmed a pilot.
Yeah.
It didn't get picked up. Super Pup was god awful, and I praise Jesus it was never picked up.
Say that again.
Superboy was god awful, and I praise Jesus for it never being picked up.
It was.
I just, there wasn't the, we're in such a quick reboot culture. It's easier to reboot and start over than it is to continue. Also, our appetite is strong right now for these properties compared to before where it wasn't. So it was, the mindset of, and I compare this to listen to my dad talk about, they're making another Batman again, is, his idea is, they made a Batman. Okay, that's it. We're done. There's a Batman movie. Time, like 20 years go by. They're doing a new Batman. Okay. That's cool. Like, it's been a long time. And now they're like, shortening the window. And, to really look at the evolution of character, as you and I discussed, it's better to look at, say, The Dark Knight Rises to The Batman than it is to try to look at Ben Affleck in the middle, because that's mucky and there was, things that kind of went over. And if you look at that, I mean, that shortens the window even more, because if you want to be technical about it, we have 2012, The Dark Knight Rises. The next Batman is in 2016. That's 4 years. And then technically Ben Affleck's Batman ended in 2021, but yet still kind of going. And now we're going to have, in 2022, we have the Robert and Pattinson. And that's a weird conundrum we've not had on screen ever. We have had, instances of TV and movie overlapping with Smallville and Superman Returns, and then Tyler Hoechlin and Henry Cavill in 2016. So this, so yeah. So, and like I told you this, and you're going to get there here soon. You look at Superman, the last Superman serial was 1950.
Okay, yeah.
In 1951, we have Superman in the Moment, which was going to be a TV pilot made into a movie. It's very weird. But Superman in the Moment was originally offered to Kirk Allen. He turned it down because of more money. George got it. George would go on to have a series, and that became the first Superman series. So the things, shifted right there. And it makes you wonder, had Kirk taken it, if it would have gone as a movie or not a TV series. So it's interesting how they took that property and so quickly rebooted it. It's like the first reboot. Kind of.
Yeah.
Because, Batman, that whole Batman different actor thing, it was a soft reboot, I guess. But when we get to the first season of the George series, we have a new Lois. We have a new everybody. So, yeah, it's the first hard reboot.
Yeah, because, okay, so I'm trying to remember who played Lois in that first season.
The first is Phyllis Coates. Phyllis Coates did it in the first season, and she did it in Superman in the Moment.
Yes, and then Noelle comes back in season 2. And why does Phyllis leave, though?
I don't remember. Like, I haven't been able to really find anything that's told me.
Well, Noelle's just fantastic.
She is so sweet. I just want to give her a hug and hang out with her. And wait. She is my favorite part of the next one. So just wait till you get there.
Okay, so back to the serial, because we've gone off on so many tangents about Superman. Okay, so the other thing I thought was crazy, okay, is so the ship blows up as soon as they get him out of the ship as a baby. It blows up, which is good. I guess. But with the ship being disintegrated and no trace, as soon as you do that, you don't have that moment of showing him the ship when he's older. So the showing of the ship when he's older becomes a Silver Age moment.
Yeah. I mean, Silver Age was all about the sci-fi. You know, it's very much removed as much as you can with this.
Yeah.
Like, they don't touch on a lot of the alien nature stuff. There's no, you know,
It's very
a lot of the things that we think of is Silver Age. Like, I consider this like Golden Age TV, the serials and the Adventures of Superman.
Golden
Like,
Age is all gangsters and mad scientists and all this stuff, but yeah, because Brainiac was introduced till Silver Age, Supergirl Silver Age, Metallo was Silver Age, because Metallo comes in the same issue as Supergirl. What else? Parasite doesn't show up until, I think Parasite's Bronze Age. Maybe.
Is it? I don't know. The Bronze Age is one of those, like, when does it start, that I always kind of.
Well, the Bronze Age, the Bronze Age is shorter than you might think.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. It is short.
Yeah, the official start of the Bronze Age really is the death of Gwen Stacy. That's the official. Anybody that says different, they're crazy. Is the official start of the Bronze Age in comics, because that story changed everything, absolutely everything. That's where stuff got really personal. I'm going to try to find an answer for you. Okay, so if you go on DC Universe here, they actually kind of break it down of what the ages are. At least they try to. So if we look at date range here, comic series. Okay, so we look at eras. So eras, according to DC Comics, the Golden Age is 1938 to 1956. So your Golden Age started with Superman, and the Golden Age ends when Barry Allen becomes the Flash, and that starts the Silver Age.
That makes sense. And then you get the Hal Jordan stuff.
Yep. And then the Silver Age goes from 1956 to 1971, which is fascinating because Christopher Reeve's Superman shows up in 1978, and 1978 is the height of the Bronze Age.
Well, I mean, we all know that when we interpret live action, when they take from like the current comics, it's always just slightly behind. I mean, let's look at, for example, Zack Snyder's Affleck Batman, heavily influenced by Frank Miller. Frank Miller is all the late 80s, and it even helped influence Batman, 89, somewhat. But I wouldn't say it was a complete, influence from Miller's work. So, I mean, and then how much stuff are we still borrowing for our different shows and stuff from the New 52, when the New 52 isn't even a thing anymore? So, it doesn't surprise me that, the script writers and everything that they're taking from the comic books would look a lot at Silver Age type stuff, because that was the cultural norm, so to speak, because it had been the past history than what was current and being on the shelf at the moment. So, but like you said, we do digress. Let's look at some of the characters.
Yes, please.
So just break down your thoughts on Kirk Allen's Clark Kent. Go.
Okay. Kirk Allen Clark Kent. I honestly could not see Superman in that outfit. I thought Clark was played pretty well. Had that Golden Age persona about him, very pleasant stuff. always had the fedora with him, which I thought was interesting, and I think that really helped the disguise because you don't think about the hair when you have the fedora.
Mm-hmm.
The glasses were oversized, and it kind of made me chuckle because I had just read Jeff Johns' Secret Origin, and with the oversized glasses, being part of the ship and stuff, and I like the oversized glasses because it really does help the secret identity. I didn't like how Clark was kind of always at his desk. I mean, it was just part of the time, and the writing, but like he always seemed to be kind of at his desk, just waiting for things to happen. And then once he hears someone's in trouble, then he goes and he's like does a Superman job. But I want to add too. I thought it was really weird how they how Sarah Kent hands him the blanket that was, the outfit that was made out of the blanket. I've always liked that touch in Superman lore. But then, like, he's an adult. He knows he's Superman. He knows he has powers, and then it just says, and his foster parents suddenly died.
Yeah, in the same suit that he was just wearing as he leaves the house.
Yep.
For a train, and it's like, and when it always confuses me, because I was like, was he in was he in Smallville, Kansas when he got on the train, or did he get off at Metropolis? It's very weird.
Yeah, that was so weird. And I thought it was really interesting how all the special, like all the big Superman, the special effects was all animated. I thought that was pretty darn interesting because just a few years later, like all the special effects with George flying was just, was him kind of on wires.
Well, I mean, I look at kind of how we use digital animation now for a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And we still have like them on wires, just now it's all green screen wires,
Yeah.
They just did it the way they could back then. And there's some cool, what was neat about watching the serials back to back was there's some cool advances that happened in between the two serials.
Yes. So,
what did you think of Kirk's Superman?
I can really see that he was a dancer. It's a lot of jumping around. His outfit really did. I think you said it best, and I totally agree with you. His outfit just seemed like a kid playing dress up. It seemed awkward at times. And he didn't have, like, the curl was there and stuff, but he didn't have a presence about him.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he showed up, I didn't feel like
Superman's here.
Yeah, that Superman's here and crap's gonna get done. Like, he didn't have that oof, if you will, for lack of better.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, I'm with you.
I mean, he wasn't. I mean, it wasn't atrocious.
No.
It's just, yeah. It's his Superman and Clark. It just didn't have that oof. And the thing that made me laugh the most is when you get to the last episode, finally, and they had, the Spider Lady has his kryptonite. He says, "Oh, it doesn't affect me because I'm wearing a line of lead under my suit." I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You're not wearing it on your face. You're not wearing it on your hands. And why aren't you wearing this all the time for the rest of your life as Superman? If that's all.
How did you like when he revealed himself to the guy and he's like, turn off that light, and he like starts changing his clothes in the dark?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to say it to you. Okay, so when Kryptonite's introduced, he shows that scientist that, hey, I'm Clark Kent, I'm really Superman, and if you don't destroy this, it's going to kill me. That really bugged me.
It was hilariously awkward.
Yes, turn off that light. And then the guy's listening outside the room. It's like, oh, what's going on there? They got the light out. It's a little time with the doctor and soups. Yeah, it's just, it was really awkward. I mean, I could somewhat understand it because Like, how are you going to explain that you passed out and that the importance of getting rid of this kryptonite? But then it's kind of all ruined by at the end where he's like, "Hey, I'm wearing lead under my suit." Like, why did you have to tell this doctor that Clark Kent was Superman if you could have just made a lead suit to protect you after that incident? Because you did it anyway. You know?
Yeah.
That was weird. Noelle. So moving on to
so Lois, Noelle Neal.
Noelle was great. Like, I mean, she was the damsel in distress more than I would like in my Lois.
But that's the Lois of the time.
It was
you know.
Yeah, I know.
But think about how much, like, I thought about this, the context of her being a woman in the role that she is, how much progressive Lois is.
Oh my gosh. There's no other woman like Lois in the 1940s. You know? Like Lois going out, like I liked Lois. I always liked the part of Superman lore of Clark beating Lois to a scoop to get the job. I've always liked that. I like a Lois that she'll do anything for the story no matter what. Like that's Lois to me. So and near the end of the serials, when she told the secretary to report her car stolen, and she took the Daily Planet's car so Clark wouldn't get it, and then threw her keys to him and said, "Here, take my car." And he gets pulled over by the cops and thrown in jail because their car is reported stolen. I was like, oh my gosh, that is perfect Lois.
That was that was my favorite Lois moment.
Favorite
because it was so underhanded.
That was great. That was comedy that was needed. I thought Jimmy. I can't remember who played Jimmy. What the heck is it? Jimmy. Who played Jimmy? Yeah. So Tommy Bond as Jimmy. He was a lot more confident of a Jimmy.
I just felt like he would be like the Jimmy I'd find in a back alley beating people up for information.
Right. He seemed a lot tougher than any Jimmy I have really seen since. So that was interesting for me. That was a little different for me. He did a pretty decent job. I was a little. I laughed a little bit because in one of the serials, Jimmy's in this box that's supposed to have some mineral in it, even though this thing is so ridiculously oversized. And how can you not tell a man was in it? But he gets shot at. But in between the scenes of the criminals going from the back of the truck to the front of the truck, Superman switches the places. Like that was kind of funny.
Oh yeah.
But this Jimmy was pretty decent, man. I was I like Jimmy being a little bit more confident, but so that was interesting. The Spider Lady, dude. Let's talk about Spider Lady.
Okay.
Is she not one of the worst Spider-Man or Superman villains ever?
She is horrible. Her best thing is when she changes her wig.
Yeah. So when she took off the blonde wig and she ended up being a brunette the whole time.
That was her best trait.
That I cracked up. and Jen was like, well, blondes have more fun, and that's why she had to put it on. That's how you lead an empire.
Yeah.
But like her reasoning for needing the reducer ray was to blow up a prison to get two of her guys out.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Like that made no sense. She would wear a mask. When someone came into her hideout, she would wear a mask, shine a bright light in them, ask them for questions, and then when they gave her what she wanted to know, she would turn the lights out, take the mask off, and never wear it again. So, okay.
So what I'm hearing is you really missed having the regular villains.
Yeah. I mean, how did she become queen of the underworld? That's like that makes sense to me.
It's one of those things that try not to look at stuff through like too much modern lenses. Like I feel like when we get so caught up on stuff, it's like, yeah, this happened and this happened. And we forget that, okay, we gotta look at it how they just, people just went with stuff. But would you recommend this serial to Superman fans?
I would, I would, because for the fact of seeing how far Superman has gone, how cinematically Superman started and where he has gone throughout history, and seeing the first live action Superman and seeing Noel, I think you should check it out. But I will say maybe skip a couple episodes.
I really feel like you could watch the first, like, what you think, 5, maybe 7.
Probably up until the Kryptonite. Like, watch until the Kryptonite gets introduced, and Spider-Lady gets the Kryptonite, and then skip a couple episodes, and then just watch maybe the last 2, because all that in the middle is a whole lot of car chase, Lois in peril, Superman gets her, let's wait to the next car chase. So, I don't say you necessarily need to watch it all, but maybe just a little bit at the beginning until you get bored, and then kind of watch the end. It's not the best, but it is not the worst Superman thing. So, for history's sake and Superman fans' sake, check it out. Check it out a little bit. I think the next serial will probably be better, in my eyes.
I think you're going to like the next one. It still has some of the same problems, but at the same time, there is a lot more positive things going for it. And if you're a Noel Neill fan, you'll definitely like the next one.
All right, man. Yeah.
All right, Bryan. Well, thanks for this chat, man.
It was fun.
We'll chat more in depth after you watch the second serial.
Sure.
Because we'll be able to look at the serials as a whole, because there's so much of it that I don't remember what happens in what, because there is so much redundancy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil anything for you. So when you make a comment, it jogs my memory of, oh yeah, this happened in that one. But after you watch Superman vs. Atom Man, we'll be able to kind of look at the serials as a whole. And I'm telling you, just for the juxtaposition, when you finish Superman vs. Atom Man, watch Superman vs. and the Mole Men. It's not very long. It's under an hour.
Oh, I've seen Superman vs. the Mole Men.
But I'm just saying, watch it as soon as you finish it, because you'll feel the change. It's an interesting feeling.
Okay. All right.
So, all right, buddy. Well, thank you for being here. And everyone listen. It's a bummer that the serials aren't streaming, because I do think there's something for Superman fans to just at least watch a couple to get the feel of. And we'll talk more about it as it comes out. Well, so, Bryan, where can people find you online?
You can find me online on Twitter at Manchild of Steel. And you can find me on the Krypton podcast every once in a while. But mostly you can find me at Manchild of Steel on Twitter.
All right, Manchild, thanks. And everyone, remember.
Look up in the sky. Yes, it's Minnesota.
We just want to say, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please check out other podcasts on the Press Play Podcast Network. Remember to check out Krypton Report on all social media platforms. Go to linktree.com/Krypton Report. You find all of our information right there. $1 a month, you'll get extra special content that you don't get on the main show, like movie commentaries and whatever else comes out of our mouths. So check it out, patreon.com/Krypton Report. We're going to press pause and hear a few words from our other podcasts on Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us and then listen in.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough Super Talk, check out these other podcasts. Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, the Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, Caped Wonder, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope Podcast.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.